Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking a look at the Buddha's teachings, but maybe from a different angle.
Right. We're focusing on the practical side, the strategy behind it all for finding happiness, for finding freedom.
Exactly. Our main source is Along the Way by Ṭhānissaro Bhikkhu, which really highlights this. Our mission really is to unpack how the Buddha saw ending suffering not as, some abstract idea, but as a concrete skill, something you actually do.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to see that the Dhamma isn't about just passively accepting things. It's much more about strategically working with your own mind, a real roadmap.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of the time people get these, well, simplified versions.
Like what?
Like, maybe Buddhism is just about being passive or only going with the flow. But when you dig into the sources, you find something, well, much more active, more purposeful.
Okay, so let's dive into that.
Yeah.
This idea that the Buddha wasn't just a thinker, but more like a master strategist.
Precisely. He taught things for a specific purpose. It wasn't just about knowing truths for their own sake.
Okay.
There's this key Pali word, attha. It means goal, purpose, benefit. It's all about usefulness, what works.
Can you give an example? How does that actually play out?
Sure. There's that well-known story, with the sasaba leaves.
Uh-huh. Remind me.
Well, the Buddha picks up just a few leaves and asks his monks, are there more leaves in my hand or in the whole forest?
Right. Obvious answer, the forest.
Exactly. And he says what he knows is like all the leaves in the forest, vast. But what he teaches is just this handful.
Why?
Because, he says, these few things, like the Four Noble Truths, they're connected directly to the goal. They lead to unbinding, to freedom. The rest. Interesting, maybe, but not essential for that purpose.
So he was incredibly focused, only teaching what was truly useful for freeing the mind.
Spot on.
I like that raft analogy, too. Or the chariot. It's a vehicle, right?
It's a tool, something you use to get somewhere important, and crucially, something you put down once you've arrived. You don't carry the raft on your head after crossing the river.
Right. So it implies active use, not just, belief.
Exactly. And this leads right into another really important, maybe surprising idea. Safety in a duality.
Okay, that sounds counterintuitive. Isn't Buddhism about getting beyond dualities?
Well, yes and no. In this context, it means the Buddha saw his main job as providing protection. Protection through knowledge.
And that knowledge is?
It's about clearly seeing the difference between what should be done and what shouldn't be done. A fundamental duality for practical living.
Okay, so it's a practical distinction, not necessarily an ultimate one.
Right. And this is where he directly challenged other teachings of his time.
What kind of teachings?
Specifically, views that suggested your present experience is totally fixed, like determined by your past karma, or maybe by a creator god, or even just random chance.
Why challenge those? They might sound, accepting.
Because think about it. If you believe everything's already decided, what's the point of trying to act skillfully now?
Right. It removes your motivation, your agency.
Exactly. It leaves you feeling, as the texts say, bewildered and unprotected. The choice between skillful and unskillful actions becomes meaningless. And that, for the Buddha, was dangerous. It leads away from freedom.
So our views, the things we believe, they aren't just passive thoughts. They're actually a kind of action, a karma.
Yes. They have consequences. They shape where we're headed. A view is skillful if it leads you towards liberation, unskillful if it keeps you stuck in suffering.
So this should and shouldn't thinking, it's like a guide.
Kind of like a healthy inner compass, yeah. It's conditional advice, though. If you want true happiness, if you want protection from suffering, then this is the way. But the choice to actually follow that advice, that's always up to you.
Okay, that makes sense. So how does this whole strategic idea translate into, daily life?
Yeah.
Our actual practice?
That's the next logical step, isn't it? Because the Buddha really approached happiness itself not as something that just happens to you, but as an objective skill, something you cultivate.
Like learning an instrument, you mean? You have to practice.
Exactly like that. And one key skill here is something called puñña.
Which often gets translated as merit.
Right, but that translation can be a bit misleading. It's not about collecting spiritual points or badges.
So what is it about?
It's about actively developing qualities of the heart. Qualities that, by their very nature, create happiness right here, right now.
Like what? Can you give some examples?
Sure. Things like generosity, giving freely, developing virtue, which is really about self-control, ethical living, and maybe the most powerful, cultivating genuine goodwill, loving kindness towards everyone.
And these aren't just for some future payoff.
Not primarily. They bring an immediate sense of well-being, inner wealth, you could say. And what's really amazing is that the most powerful forms, like virtue and goodwill, they aren't for sale. Anyone can develop them.
That's quite democratic. And this skill-based idea, it applies to meditation too, right? Because I think many people imagine meditation as just zoning out.
Oh, absolutely. And the Buddha's own descriptions push back hard against that passive idea. Well, think about the similes he used. He compared a meditator to a skilled carpenter working a lathe, super focused, or a master cook, carefully discerning all the different flavors for a king, or an archer, skillfully hitting the mark again and again.
Those are all very active, very engaged images.
Totally. They emphasize precision, awareness, and skillful intervention, not just passively watching.
So this really cuts against that modern idea of meditation as just allowing things to happen or doing nothing. Why is that doing nothing view problematic from this strategic standpoint?
Well, if you truly buy into doing nothing, if you think present effort is pointless, then how can you possibly follow a path to end suffering? You've basically told yourself you have no power to change anything.
Right. You need to see your own role in creating the suffering first.
Exactly. Real insight in this framework involves seeing your own activity and how you construct your experience, and then learning to change that activity skillfully.
So mindfulness isn't just passive observation either.
No, it's more like active remembering. Remembering to bring skillful qualities to mind, remembering to protect the mind from unskillful ones. It's awareness for a purpose.
Okay, so this whole Dhamma practice, it's framed as an objective skill because the underlying principles like cause and effect, karma, work the same for everyone.
That's the idea. Liberation isn't some random fluke. It comes from developing this clearly marked path of skills.
And you mentioned punya, things like generosity and virtue being connected to insight.
Very directly. That basic discernment starts with asking yourself, okay, what is skillful here? What's unskillful? What, if I do it, will actually lead to long-term well-being and happiness? Punya provides the entry-level answers.
It sets the foundation.
Precisely. And having this strategic, skill-based toolkit becomes incredibly important when we face life's really big challenges.
Yeah, like grief or, the ultimate challenge, death itself. How does this approach help with something like grief?
It offers very practical, skillful ways to engage with it. Take the advice the Buddha gave to King Pasenadi when his queen died.
What did he suggest?
Well, first, reflect that loss is universal. It happens to everyone. It's not some unique curse on you. That helps create a bit of perspective.
Okay, what else?
Second, express the loss, but skillfully. Use eulogies, make donations in the person's name, reflect on wise teachings. Avoid, destructive weeping and wailing that just digs the hole deeper.
So channel the energy constructively.
Right. And third, remind yourself of the good things you still need to accomplish in your life. Redirect your focus forward.
That's a very proactive way to handle grief, not just wallowing.
And it goes deeper. The text suggests that grief often stems from an unskillful tendency inside, this habit of making things ours through passion and desire.
Like we cling to the person, and when they're gone, it feels like a part of us is gone.
Exactly that feeling. Recognizing this can lead to something called savigga.
What's savigga?
It's a kind of profound dismay, almost terror, when you see the inherent suffering and meaninglessness in the cycles of loss and attachment. It's not just sadness, it's a powerful motivation to find a way out of the whole cycle, to address the root cause of grief itself.
Wow. Okay. And what about death? How do we practice for that?
The teaching is that meditation, developing mindfulness, and concentration is literally practice for dying well, for being unhindered at death.
How so?
Because that final moment is crucial. You're making critical choices then, based on your state of mind. So the practice involves learning to overcome the 5 hindrances, things like sensual desire, ill will, restlessness, doubt.
The stuff that clouds the mind.
Precisely. These things corrupt the mind, weaken your ability to see clearly. By practicing overcoming them throughout your life, you're preparing yourself to face death with clarity and alertness.
Is there a strategy even at the moment of death?
Yes. There's even guidance on strategically using desire itself, like advising a dying person to redirect their mind away from earthly attachments towards higher, more refined states, and ultimately aiming for the complete cessation of clinging, of self-identity, which is awakening.
That brings us right to clinging, doesn't it? The first noble truth. Suffering is the 5 clinging aggregates.
And the crucial word there is clinging.
Not the aggregates themselves, like form, feeling, perception.
No, the aggregates are just Experience, the components of experience, they aren't inherently the problem. The problem is the clinging to them.
And clinging is an active verb.
Yes, that's such a powerful point. Suffering isn't just happening to us, it's something we are doing, which
Yeah.
means we have the power to stop doing it. We can learn to let go of the clinging.
The Buddha talked about different kinds of clinging, right?
4 main types, yeah. Clinging to sensuality, clinging to views, clinging to habits and practices, and the most fundamental one, clinging to a doctrine of self, the idea of a fixed, permanent me.
But wait, didn't you say we use practices like concentration? Isn't that a form of clinging?
Ah, good point.
Oh,
Yes, the path uses skillful clinging temporarily. You might cling to right concentration as a beneficial habit. It's like the raft again.
use it to get across.
But you don't keep holding on to it once you've reached the other shore. Even the skillful means are let go of eventually. Their purpose is fulfilled.
And reaching that other shore, that first real glimpse of freedom, is called the Dhamma eye.
Right. Stream entry, the first noble attainment. It's described as seeing the Dhamma directly.
How is it described?
The classic formula is directly seeing. Whatever is subject to origination is all subject to cessation.
So it's not just intellectually agreeing that things are impermanent.
No, it's a direct, intuitive, undeniable experience of that truth in relation to everything.
And what happens then? What's the impact?
It's life-changing. It brings unshakable confidence in the path. It perfects your ethical conduct automatically, and it guarantees full liberation within 7 lifetimes at most.
Wow. And it cuts certain mental chains or fetters?
Yes, 3 specific ones at this stage. Self-identification views, seeing through the idea of a fixed self tied to the aggregates, uncertainty about the path, and grasping at rituals or practices as ends in themselves.
There's not realizing no self as a concept, but breaking free from defining yourself by these changing experiences.
Exactly. You stop building self around them.
Okay, so pulling this all together, this whole strategic approach, sometimes called the Buddha's RX, it's like a medical model for suffering.
It really is. The 4 noble truths are like diagnosis, suffering; cause, clinging, craving; prognosis, cessation is possible; and prescription, the 8-fold path. It attacks the cause, not just the symptoms.
And the different parts of the path play different roles in that treatment.
Right. Right view understands the problem and the strategy. Right effort generates the motivation, the desire for the cure. Right, mindfulness and concentration create the stable, focused mind needed for the treatment to work, and the virtue factors support the whole process.
Within that medical practical framework, the whole logic of not self starts to make a lot more sense.
It does. It's not some abstract philosophical denial. It's deeply pragmatic. It points out how the constant activity of I-making and my-making, how we fabricate this sense of self, is actually the source of our stress and suffering.
So seeing through that is key to the cure.
It's seeing that the clinging, the self-making, is counterproductive to the goal of true happiness. It's practical reasoning for letting go.
This has been, well, really clarifying. Taking this deep dive really shows the Buddha's path as this incredibly practical, strategic, skill-based journey. It's not passive at all. It's an invitation to actively engage with your own mind, to understand how it works, and to cultivate the skills that lead to real freedom.
And what's really potent, I think, is realizing this whole framework shows the path is still completely relevant, still wide open, as the texts say.
Yeah.
Meaning the conditions needed to gain these insights, even profound ones like the Dhamma eye, they're still available, they're still at hand, right here, right now, for anyone willing to put in the skillful effort. It's about seeing that opportunity and really making the most of it.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to reflect on. How are you approaching your own happiness right now? Is it something you're sort of waiting for or hoping it just happens? Or are you actively, strategically cultivating the inner skills, the qualities of heart and mind that lead to genuine, lasting well-being, that lead to freedom? The choice, as the Buddha emphasized, is always yours.